Okay, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll be continuing our series on SHIRIM in the Holy Alshech synagogue here. And we have two beautiful psukim that we see the continuation of the dialogue between the beloved woman who is yearning to come in contact and be together with her man. And this is the first time we see them described as her man described as a shepherd. Until now, they weren't described as a shepherd. He was described as a king, a beloved. But here it takes us to a discussion between a shepherd and his girl. So she says the following: Hagidali, tell me, she'ahava nafshi, the one who my soul so loves. Eicha tireh, where do you shepherd your flock? Eicha tarbitz b'tzorayim, where do you let your sheep rest and graze in the hot sun in the afternoon? So basically she's saying, I want to come meet you. Tell me where you are. Give me some of your location. Shalama e'yeh ka'otiyah, why should I be like a mourning woman that is covered in a veil, or like a promiscuous woman looking around and snooping around in the flocks of your friends? So basically she's saying that I don't know where you are. I'm spending all my time snooping around, asking people where to find you, and why do you want that for me? Why do you think I should be being elsewhere while I should be with you? So that's a message she's sending out to him somehow, either in her words that are supposed to send him a message, or somehow she's saying it to him in a way that he's going to hear somehow. And he replies to her, Im lo tedilach, if you do not know how to find me, hayafa banashim, the most beautiful of all women, he calls her. Tzilach be'ikvei atzon, you should go out and follow the footsteps of the sheep. Ure'iyad g'diyotaych, and you should shepherd your little kid goats. Al mishkenot haroim, on the above or next to the resting places of the other shepherds. So in a way, what he's telling her is that I'm not going to tell you where I am. I might give you a little bit of a hint. Just keep following the footsteps, and I'm around somewhere. I'm challenging you to go and try and find me still. So in a way, it's a little bit of a letdown, where she's putting herself out there again, asking for him to reveal his location, and what she gets in response is a vague, semi push aside, saying, "I'm not ready to let you know where I am." So that's the simple understanding of this conversation between a girl looking for her shepherd boyfriend. And the Midrash and the rabbis explain this in a couple different ways, but it's mainly the idea where the Jewish people are in exile. And we're wondering, how do Jewish people survive in exile? Because it's not our natural habitat. And we don't have the protection that we need. We don't have the grazing fields that we naturally thrive in. So the way the Targum says a very powerful explanation of this question and answer. And he says, Moshe Rabbeinu, before his time came to pass away, he said to Hashem the following: I know that my people are going to sin before you. I guess he knew the Jews already by then. And they're going to go into exile. Now, please tell me, how are they going to survive? How are they going to have merit to deserve parnasa, to deserve sustenance from you? And also, how are they going to survive the harsh decrees that their nations that they're going to be exiled to are going to put against them? Right? So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, the nations of the world don't love us. We know that we deserve, we need to do mitzvot to deserve protection. So how are we going to survive being sent out into exile where we don't have the protection of being in the Holy Land, and we've sinned, and now we're at the mercy of the 70 wolves surrounding one sheep? So he's asking, Echat, how are you going to shepherd us? How are you going to take care of us? But Tzahorayim, in the heat of the sun. And the way the Targum describes it is in the heat of the Gzerot, or beating upon our heads like the sun, in the middle of Tammuz, B'tkufat Tammuz, right, which is the hottest time of the year, like the heat of the, the hottest time of the summer. And another thing. In the course of history, when is that? So actually, the Zohar says, Echa Tireh, Echa Tarbit. It says Echa twice. So Echa means where or how. We'll see in a minute. But we know Echa. We know what's Echa. Echa is the lamentations of the Churban. So he says, the Zohar says, it's referring to the two exiles. Echa Tireh, the first one is shepherding. So that's the first exile, which was 70 years. So it was like shepherding, like we're moving through it. Echa Tarbitz means to rest. Talking about the second exile, when we're here to rest, we're not going anywhere. So we're referring to both exiles where we've lost our divine providence being in the land, and that's physically and geographically we're not in our homeland, and we're suddenly exposed to all of those elements that hate us, and we don't even have the merits to deserve protection. So Moshe is asking Hashem, what is your plan for when the Jews are in exile? And the fact that they're going to be in exile is going to make them be between the flocks of your friends. Who's the flocks of your friends? The children of Esav and Yishmael. So meaning the Jews are going to be between the other nations who serve idols and have other ideas of what life's about, and they're going to be exposed to that. So we have a double problem of how the Jews should survive now in exile. So what does Hashem answer him? What's the secret for Jewish survival in exile? So Hashem says to Moshe, so now Hashem says, I still love you, and I still think you're beautiful. You're beautiful, the most beautiful of women.
Mm-hmm. We're in the safest place.
That's where you are.
As Hashem protect all the Jewish people. So if you don't know what to do in exile, you most beautiful woman of all, so I'll give you a few suggestions. You should go in the ways of the tzaddikim, follow in the footsteps of the righteous. And you should pray in the same prayers that were given to you by the righteous. So the rabbis are giving us, the rabbis wrote prayers for us, specifically for the time of exile, right? Before the Second Temple, there were no scripted prayers. So the rabbis, the Anshe Knesset Gdola, prepared us for the time of exile, that we should have written prayers, because that has the power to reach highest places, because they're written with very deep ideas and very powerful word connections, and they have a strong power to be able to beseech the heavens. So again, this is the idea of following the footsteps, following the scripted prayers, because that's the certain sureness of following the past, following what we had in the time where we were more sure where we were and what we're doing. So Hashem's saying we're in exile now, we don't really have the clarity, but we have the tradition, we have our heritage that we should keep following.
We were more sure and more insulated.
Right. We had it all together, kind of thing. So now we're all over the place, but we have the footsteps of the past, and we have the prayers of the past. And another tip Hashem says in the Targum explains: take your children and teach them to keep coming to the Beit Knesset and the Beit Midrash. If you teach your children that should be a place for them to go, in that zchut you'll have parnasa in galut, and this will keep you. This will be your survival mechanism until Mashiach comes and takes you back into the Beit HaMikdash, which was built by David and Shlomo for the Jewish people. So this pasuk is really in the Midrash telling us, and Rashi says a very similar thing. Rashi also says that what should we do in exile to be saved from those who want to hurt us? You should take note of the previous generations that kept the mitzvot and did the right and went in my ways, and go in their footsteps. Go in their footsteps. So basically, we're saying that in the time of Galut, we don't really have new ideas. All we have is the past, and in a way, it's kind of not really the Jewish spirit. The Jewish spirit is more innovative and alive. But what we're saying here is that we don't really have the clarity and the kedusha and the ruach hakodesh that the previous generations had. So we're kind of in a way we're like on a lifeboat, and we're just following the same path we had, and that's the safest route. And that's all we have is to like continue walking in the ways of our previous generations. So the interesting thing is that this is explaining echa is how, right? It's like ech in Hebrew. Ech is how. So echa in this understanding is how. Echa can also mean eiko, which means where, like ayeka, like efo in Hebrew. Where are you? So the Malbim has a very powerful explanation. The Malbim's got his general theme of the whole SHIR SHIRIM, talking about Shlomo's soul as an example of a Jewish soul being trapped in a body, knowing that it should be exposed to more, that there's more to what meets the eye, and the soul is constantly trying to experience God. So until now, the psukim were the soul asking for a prophetic vision where the soul completely reunites with the source and the barriers of the body fall away. And the answer the soul got was that it's not possible. Once you're in a body, you're never going to fully reunite. That's it. The body is a strong barrier. It's trapped and there's no way out. So in this pasuk, the pasuk said that the soul is asking Hashem, okay, so I can't get to know you on a prophetic level, but I'm asking you, where are you? How can I see you in the world? I want to look at you through the world. I want to see the world and see you within the world, right? So the way it's asking is that I want to be able to use my tools of intellect and my power of curiosity and awareness of what's happening around me to see you. And specifically, we're asking two questions: where do you shepherd, and where do you let them rest to graze? So he says that as follows: that a shepherd is more actively involved in his sheep when he's shepherding them, because he's pushing them around, he's moving them around. When the grazing stage is more of a passive, involvement, where he's like, you know what, I'm just going to hang out underneath this tree, play my flute, and you guys just do what you got to do. And also, when the shepherd shepherds his flock, he does it on his own with his flock of sheep. But when they graze, then a bunch of shepherds meet around a certain grazing area, around the well or whatever it is. So the soul is describing, I want to get to know you, Hashem, and I want to understand where you are, both in a situation where there's more divine providence, there's more direct contact with the divine, which is like shepherding, and I also want to get to know you when in the context of where you've kind of let us be just graze under the influence of nature, and kind of let go a little bit. So that's also another way of trying to understand Hashem, even when he's not so actively involved. And he's shepherding with his friends. Who are Hashem's friends in this context? The forces of nature. But we're like, how can I see you through the forces of nature while it's not so obvious who's my shepherd? So let's see it's very interesting words. The Malbim uses very powerful words. So he says,
which one? Where is it? Who's?
Rav Malbim.
Malbim.
Yeah. Very powerful. Malbim is just amazing. So he says as follows. Second. Okay, so don't find the exact words that I was looking for. But that's basically the context of the question. So the answer is, so he says two things. How can we get to experience God and know God through the world? So he said there's two things we need to do. First of all, we need to know the ways of discovering God in the world. But there's another problem. Even though we have ways of trying to search for Hashem's ways in the world, we also need to know how to prevent being blocked or being stopped along the way. Right? So what's the two things? So first of all, you have to go in the footsteps of the sheep. So that indicates that don't try and find Hashem himself, because he's unknowable. What you can do is experience phenomena in the world, see the wisdom of the way the world works and the ways of God, and then you can get a hint of who he is through his ways. So you can't see him himself, but you can follow the footsteps and kind of...
The mashal of the sheep is his ways or our ancestors?
So in this is a different mashal. Right there we said how are we going to survive the exile. Here we're saying a different question and answer based on a very different understanding. That the question was, I want to see you, I want to find you. And the answer is, you can't find me myself. You can only see where I am through following my sheep. So the sheep are his subjects, his actions, his the way he reveals himself to the world.
Or does it mean his nature, the nature, true nature?
That's right. So nature would be one of them. So he says, for example, look at his wisdom of how he runs the world. Vayecholet, his ability. See how much he can do and what his limits are limitless. Vaharachamim v'hachesed, how much mercy and kindness exists within life, and how much he has so much mercy on his creations, and he gives them all how much he gives them. So that is going to teach us how much Hashem really has to offer, and this is just a glimpse of what he has by seeing and following and being aware or looking around the world. And the second thing we have to be aware of, says Hashem back to us, is that you have to shepherd your flock. What does that mean? He says every person has inside of him a small world that we need to take care of. And we need to make sure to arrange the energies inside of us in the right way. So he says that we have the soul that's searching for Hashem, but there's all kinds of different energies inside of us. For example, the desires and the koach hadimyon, imagination and fantasy that can lay us astray, and the excitement that the body brings up. So all of these things we have to kind of take control of and not let them get in the way of us searching for God, because all of these things, like Hashem made them there so that we'd have to actually deal with them, and they're actually obstacles that we have to get over. So that's the two instructions according to the Malbim, of not trying to try and grasp like creation created itself, because it's not graspable. So we have to look at the world and grasp what's graspable, and choose to see God through the wisdom of the world. And we have to make sure that our body doesn't get in the way of pulling us in the wrong directions and clouding our minds and hearts with all of what it has to offer. I'm just going to finish off this piece with so this is what I was looking for actually. The Metsudot also explains that, similar to the Malbim, and his words are that she's calling out and saying, open my heart to know your true existence and your abilities, so that I will be pulled towards you and cling to you, so that I shouldn't be confused and having trying to figure things out with my mind. I just want to be attracted to you. And what he answers is that right now we're in exile. You can't have that level of clarity. You have to just rely on the tradition and walk in your ancestors' footsteps, and that way you will be closer to me than anyone else. But that level of knowing God, or knowing where He is, so to speak, that isn't available right now.
We can't know God as Abram did.
Right, that's what it seems. I remember a friend of mine once told me that the Christian asked him two questions. He said, Avram didn't have the Torah, and he was connected to God. So why do you feel like you need the Torah to be connected to God? Another question he asked him was, how do you know what you're doing is right if God doesn't speak to you? God spoke to Abraham, but He doesn't speak to you. So I can't remember what he told him, but I remember when I had these two questions, I realized that the two questions were answered each other. So because he doesn't speak to us, he spoke to us once and gave us the Torah, so we just follow the Torah, and that's how he speaks to us. So we don't need him to speak to us every day. So it's a different kind of relationship. So Avram was more personal, but now for us it's like a nation type of thing.
He was also more focused.
Yeah,
We have many more distractions.
right. If we would have to do what he did to be able to receive the Torah, most of us probably wouldn't get anywhere. So he kind of did the hard work, and now we're kind of given it on a silver platter. Like we're born into it in a way. So then there's just to finish off with this beautiful piece from the Barditchev. Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev says a Hasidic understanding here, and he says that we're in exile, and it's difficult, right? And we're struggling. It's not easy to be a Jew and struggle with the ups and downs. So he says, Hagidali, tell me, she'ahava nafshi. Tell me that you love me. I want you to give me the message that you love me, and that will give me the strength to break through anything. Just the knowledge that you love me can help me overcome any barriers. So this is a very interesting thing, like if we get these moments of reminders, and we tell ourselves and we make sure to remind ourselves that Hashem loves us, and really it's also true in every relationship that if we know that the relationship within, if there's love there, then anything, we can overcome anything. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should know that Hashem loves us, and we can do this. We can get through anything. B'ezrat Hashem.
Very good.